It's that time of year. I've been counting down the days on my calendar, and it's finally time to say, Happy... In order to keep this video politically correct, I have included a different greeting for different holidays. Please click the annotation for your preferred holiday to view the greeting. Afterwards, click the annotation in the lower right corner to view the rest of the video. Isn't this convenient? Christmas. Festivus. Hanukkah. Decemberween. Kwanzaa. Holidays. Everybody, aren't holiday greetings fun? Hearth's Warming Eve, the My Little Pony Christmas special. Every show's gotta do a Christmas or other holiday special at some point, but where most shows treat the holiday special as a simple formality and are willing to produce a subpar episode, Hearth's Warming Eve is much more than subpar. In fact, I would say it is one of my favorite episodes of the show. Most of my episode reviews follow the format of running through the story and then stopping at any point where I have something to say. But the main reasons I love this episode as much as I do can't really be tied to any particular points of the story, and instead have to do with broad, overarching ideas in the way the story is told. So for this video, I'm going to forego the synopsis and jump straight into the things I liked about it, starting with world building. The episode is told as a pageant about Equestria's history that the main six are participating in. As a result, just about the entire episode consists of backstory. So when it comes to telling us about Equestria's history, no episode does more than Hearth's Warming Eve. Before this episode, the extent of our knowledge about history was just that 1,000 years ago was evidently a pretty exciting time, what with all the imprisoning ancient evils going on. But finally we have history with some real substance. We now have the who, what, where, why, and sort of when about Equestria's founding, which is central to just about everything that happens in the show. Whenever some obsessive fanboy gets out their strings, pushpins, and note cards to put together a complete picture of the show's history, Hearth's Warming Eve is placed right in the center of the bulletin board. Even after Season 4, which even provided us with actual flashbacks of history, no episode even compares to the amount of knowledge and depth that Hearth's Warming Eve added to the world of MLP. And speaking of world building, Hearth's Warming Eve finally gives a taste of one aspect of the world that I had been noticing an absence of since the earliest episodes. Which brings me to my next point about the episode. Racism? ... Question mark. Okay, I'll admit it, this is a good example of reading too much into things. Calling Hearth's Warming Eve a portrayal of racism is quite a stretch. Still, the episode does show tension between the three pony races that is caused by the difference between the races, and if some people were willing to call Simple Ways racist because of a dumb joke made by one character, then I think we can let calling this racism slide. I guess I shouldn't say that I was ever expecting racism in a show made for little girls, but ever since I started watching it, I still couldn't help but notice its absence. After all, racism seems almost justified in Equestria. By the time Hearth's Warming Eve came around, we had seen a season and a half of unicorns quite clearly being the best of the three races. Apologies to all the Earth Pony reviewers. But this episode finally put those ideas down by spelling out the advantages of the other two races. Pegasi are able to control the weather, evidently something that can't be mimicked with unicorn magic, and Earth Ponies excel at growing crops, both of which are roles that are vital in society. So thanks to Hearth's Warming Eve, the claim that unicorns are the best of the races just doesn't hold as much water as it used to. But there is something ingenious in the way that racial tensions are portrayed in this episode, the fact that it's done as a play. If we needed an episode to resolve the difference between races, then we would need an episode showing tensions develop between races. And in the loving and tolerating society of modern Equestria, that just wouldn't be possible to show in a believable way. If, in one episode, Rarity started hating on Rainbow Dash because she was a Pegasus, and Rainbow Dash started hating on Pinkie Pie because she was an Earth Pony, it would seem grossly inconsistent and, dare I say it, out of character compared to everything else we've seen in the show. But the idea of showing racism in a play solves all of that. Now, the characters aren't really being racist towards one another, but are merely pretending. And the fact that the play takes place over 1,000 years in Equestria's past demonstrates that, in Equestria, racism is primitive, and something that would only be done by ancient barbarians. The Hearth-Swarming Eve pageant sent a message saying all kinds of ponies are important in their own way, and trying to act superior to another race is a millennium out of style. And that is a very positive message, which brings me to the last thing that makes this episode great. Meaning. Hearth-Swarming Eve has to be one of the greatest examples of a show doing a holiday special right. Every holiday out there has some underlying spirit and meaning behind it. These days, however, TV shows are so afraid of alienating some audience or offending some extremists that they opt to completely ignore the theme surrounding a holiday and instead use the holiday as little more than an excuse to put some nice decorations in the background. But not MLP. Where most shows see holiday specials as an obligation, MLP sees it as an opportunity. Hearth-Swarming Eve is its own holiday, with no explicit ties to any real-world holiday. Although visually it does have an aesthetic quite similar to Christmas, this neatly avoids any sort of controversy, which means that both the fundamentalist soccer moms watching the show with their kids and the neck-bearded fedora-tipping atheist bronies pirating the show can both be happy with the episode. But most importantly, Hearth-Swarming Eve is not a holiday devoid of meaning. It sends a message of its own, and it is a message that is tied with the show's lore. Hearth-Swarming Eve feels like as much of a genuine and important holiday to the ponies of Equestria as our holidays do to us, which is wonderful, both in terms of world building and in terms of the moral of the episode's story. So remember that there is some real meaning to it when I say, Happy Hearth-Swarming Eve, every pony.